Well, welcome everyone to our first agenda forum on the 4th of February 2026, and I declare this meeting open at 6:01 p.m. Welcome to everyone in the gallery, and thank you for making it here tonight to come down, to our staff and to our councillors. I'd just like to begin with our warm welcome, which is Kaya Kardich Wajak Nungabuja. The City of Swan acknowledges the traditional custodians of this region, the Wajak people of the Noongar Nation, and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. And I would like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Tonight's disclaimer: the terms and conditions of entry into this meeting are posted at the entry of the public gallery, and members of the public are please asked to read them and also to abide by them for this meeting. Attendance and apologies. We have council members that are present currently. We have a leave of absence from Councillor Congerton. We have apologies from Councillor Takiro from the Pierce Ward and Councillor Hayden Miles. New media. So, disclosure of financial proximity interests and interests affecting impartiality. Tonight I have nil, but if any councillors do have one, could they fill out their form please and just hand that up to the CEO, and then I'll read that out during the meeting. Petitions, we have nil this evening. And part 6, which is the reports and notices of motion. 6.1 is the additional information from officers, and we didn't have anything additional tonight. Deputations, which is 6.2. In accordance with the current procedures for public participation at the agenda forums, all requests for in-person deputations were required by 6 p.m. on Tuesday the 3rd of February, and all written deputations received by 3 p.m. on Tuesday the 3rd of February, and they were circulated with the preliminary agenda on Tuesday evening. So we jump straight into it and we move to 14.2.1, and this is the adoption of draft local biodiversity action plan on page 84. And the first in-person deputation who is not in support of the opposite recommendation is Ms. Janzek. If you would like to come up, please, Ms. Eck, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. We recognise improvements have been made to the draft biodiversity action plan. However, it is still very much a draft, lacking specific actions, measurable outcomes and funding or timelines. Specifically, the plan states it will use the city's existing measurement framework. The claim is staff will use the annual key result area, KRA, briefing and natural environment measures within the strategic community plan framework. It states progress against actions within the draft local biodiversity action plan will be reported through the annual KRA briefings. This sounds good, doesn't it? Until you read the so-called measures, which do not include any form of meaningful biodiversity tracking. How can residents or councillors believe that the city is serious about protecting its environment when we are presented with misleading statements like this? The city must begin now to measure the track what remaining bushland exists, what condition it's in, and map how this all hangs together. Many groups would be delighted to assist with this type of project. Which brings us to some other issues. The selection parameters for local native areas are highly selective and will exclude all but the most intact examples. The plan appears to only focus on protecting LNAs in good condition. A major and relatively low-cost method of maintaining or increasing our native bushland and biodiversity is through improving degraded bushland. This does not seem to be considered. The public mapping page is entirely inadequate. It is inaccurate, missing huge amounts of information, including major Class A reserves. The public need to... Sorry. It's better. Now where did I get up to? The public need to be able to see what we have, where local groups are able to help, and to be able to understand what we actually have in the City of Swan. Mapping needs to show clearly what type of bushland is present and who owns it. These activities require funding. A plan without specific actions, measurable progress goals or funding is nearly meaningless. We can do so much better. Other councils have developed far more detailed biodiversity action plans. For example, Mundaring Council is 12 pages long with specific actions. They have also maintained a comprehensive 124-page local biodiversity strategy. instead of claiming that a strategy is no longer required at all. The timeframes for actually executing work required are inadequate. The plan has no specific dates, but it does have 3 timeframes. These are ongoing current projects, minimal resourcing needs, medium 2025, and I suspect that there may be a mistake there, 1 to 3 years, and long 2026, 2 to 5 years. They were shown as, I think, 24 and 25. So we
Just
need...
check if you have very much left.
Sorry. No, I don't have very much left at all. We need to be very clear and honest at this point. All actions described as medium or long-term timeframes are entirely unfunded and cannot currently be delivered. 2 examples. The review process has resulted in 11 actions. Only 3 are described as ongoing. The other 8 are medium or long-term. There are multiple references to Action 1.9 ecological corridors. However, the plan simply describes this as medium. Again, this means that there is no funding, no real work being undertaken before 2027, and a time frame of 1 to 3 years to accomplish something. So the measurement of success has no biodiversity measurements. The action plan has no trackable targets. An action plan without action or plan means that our biodiversity remains imperilled. We implore you to reject the action plan and insist on a document being produced with meaningful, measurable outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillors, ask if there are any questions. Councillor Howlett.
Thank you for your deputation. I understand there... can I ask, was there any consultation made by the city with any of the community environmental groups that you might be involved with since it came to council and was passed over for further work?
No. I know that the Swan Communities Environmental Alliance did ask for more consultation, and they were hoping to speak to the officers who are preparing the local biodiversity strategy, action plan, but that has not eventuated.
Thank you. And when you say hoping, did the Swan Community Environmental Alliance reach out to the staff for such a meeting?
I suspect they did. I don't know specifically because that wasn't my area that I was dealing with, so 2 other people were doing that, and I know on the last agenda for skier that it was listed that they should be making contact with council, or with the city.
Okay, councillors, any further questions for Ms Eyre? Councillor Henderson.
Jan, there was public consultation and some local hall meetings related to this. Do you know if they were well attended, or did the community know about them?
I think that the community did know about them. It's the process that was used plus the extent of consultation that was the problem. For so many of them, it's a to and fro sort of situation, like the Black Cockatoo Action Plan, Conservation Action Plan, that has been going on for some time, where there's been some consultation that has gone through a number of workshops, plus it's an ongoing process. The same thing hasn't happened with the Local Biodiversity Action Plan. So there really hasn't been enough time to develop some of the themes that are required in there. And I know one of the biggest problems is that there is no mapping facility that would suit or would meet the requirements that for being able to map areas and being able to I suppose, work out what actions are required in there.
Another question, if I may. It was proposed that information would be available on Intramaps. Are you saying that's insufficient?
Yes, that's not working really well. Oh, and it's not working for the Black Cockatoo Conservation Action Plan either.
Could you
there is a
expand,
mismatch
please?
of information there, sorry.
Okay.
Well, I think it is too technical to explain right now, but we would be happy to meet with you and explain it, because it's finding a mapping system that is accessible to the public, that we can actually put information on, that we can take information from, like refer to, and that other people can actually participate in that process of recording information. Sorry, I'm not being very helpful, but it is a highly complex situation, and at least that's what the staff have told us, and it is an ongoing problem that we've been encountering for the last year. How to actually map these things that would be in a meaningful way.
Councillors, any further questions for Ms Eck? Right. Thank you, and we'll move to 14.2.2, and this is the MRS Amendment 1448, Hepburn East Urban Precinct, Kalikabadi on page 256, and we have Ms Janzek in person deputation, not in support of the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. This amendment is not so much about the site itself as the potential impact on surrounding and downstream environments. This site includes a conservation category wetland and a TEC, along with headwaters of Bennett Brook, the only waterway being monitored by the City of Swan and included in the Strategic Community Plan to indicate how well the city is achieving its objective to preserve our waterways. It is also downstream from two bush forever sites, 196 and 198, which contain significant areas of endangered vegetation, including bankshoes and critical black cockatoo habitat. It is upstream of Whiteman Park, Bennett Brook, and the southern section of the Swan Valley. I recognise the majority of the site is degraded, but degraded doesn't mean worthless. For black cockatoos, it doesn't matter what the condition is. Today, I witnessed a huge flock of carnabis, about 50 or more, that arrived around 8:15 and was still in the trees to the north of us around 5 p.m. These trees are a mix of native and exotic Marri, Jarrah, pine trees and macadamias. The nuts and cones on these are not yet mature, but still the carnabis are eating them. With all the trees that have been removed in the Perth region, and particularly in the City of Swan, where nearly 2/3 of black cockatoo habitat, I suspect this indicates that they are starving and reduced to scraping a meal out of immature food sources. The standard of documentation presented by the West Australian Planning Commission is deplorable, considering that the amendment was designed as complex due to its environmental values and potential impacts. It deserves a rigorous evaluation. Instead, the support documents are non-existent. The TEC, multiple use and conservation category wetlands and public drinking water wellheads and protection zones are not shown. There is no draft concept plan or district water management strategy included, although they are both referred to with the amending report and the EPA advice. How can the city and the public make informed and intelligent comment when critical information is withheld? There are also plenty of planning instruments that require a greater degree of investigation prior to moving to rezoning. This has not been done. Better urban water management requires key issues are identified early in the planning process and potential fatal flaws resolved early. The EPA Environmental Guidance for Planning Development Guidance Statement number 33 says the same thing, and when development has the potential to have adverse environmental impacts, field survey work, modelling, assessment and advice by experts is encouraged to be undertaken early in the process. It was refreshing to see statutory planning actually picking up on a significant inaccuracy in the amending report. The report states, the framework designates the site as an urban expansion area suitable for urban development subject to further detailed planning. The North East Sub-Regional Planning Framework 2018 designates the site as planning investigation, not urban expansion. The city's planner is correct in reporting this classification requires further strategic planning and environmental investigations to be undertaken before any rezoning can be supported. I would add that, considering recent experience where development of new urban has so adversely impacted environmentally sensitive areas, both within and surrounding development sites as well as adjoining properties, there are more factors which need to be considered and investigated. A review of the outcomes of urban development in the Swan Urban Growth Corridor needs to be undertaken, particularly drainage strategies and management, before further development is commenced. I urge the Council to not support the rezoning of this land until all necessary investigations have been completed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillors ask, does anyone any questions for Ms Eck? Any questions on this item? Thank you very much. I'll just mention we had an apology from Councillor Navkar for this evening. And now we move to 14.2.3, which is the new locality name, North Ellenbrook West, on page 288. And we have an in-person deputation not in support of the officer's recommendation from Ms Janczak.
Thank you. I have a number of concerns about the proposed name Honeybush for this development. Accuracy of information. Honeybush, Honey Lysicarpa, grows throughout the Swan Valley. Only one reference of it appears in the DBCA WA Herb Database research results. It's located in the Susanna Brook area at the end of Pabry Avenue in Swan Valley. There is no reference to this species in any of the data collected for the LSP in the 2021 environmental assessment for this area. The publication Growing Locals, supported by Waters and Rivers Commission in 1996, describes soil and vegetation complexes of the Perth region and lists species growing in these complexes. Hakea lysicarpa only appears in the Guildford complex, not in the Bassendean or Yangu complexes noted as existing in the development site by the environmental assessment. According to Creating Black Cockatoo Friendly Suburbs, Christine Groom in 2024 listed Hakea lysicarpa as a food source for Carnaby's and Bord's black cockatoos, but not listed as important. According to Christine Groom, who extensively researched her book, the Noongar name for Hakea lysicarpa is Janda. D-J-A-N-D-A, not what appears to be the more generic barung. The halo effect. In its spiel and marketing propaganda, Parcel Property has done what every other developer in the Swan Urban Growth Corridor has done, used the Swan Valley and the natural environment to greenwash development while destroying the very thing it exalts. Reality, this development will result in the same adverse impacts being experienced in current urban growth suburbs. Large tracts of endangered black cockatoo habitat will be obliterated. Tree canopy drastically reduced, drainage strategies failing, and inappropriate construction methods and not best practice. Impressions. Hakea lysicarpa is also known as the duck and drake bush, which may open the name to ridicule. It is prickly and suckers from its roots. Will not help with the warm fuzzy feelings about the bush, Australianness, or introduce new demographics to the concept of supporting native plants, especially in the tiny lots and even tinier yard spaces available in new subdivisions. References to the Swan Valley botanical species will be used to enhance the image of what's being sold, which, on the whole, are treeless, oppressively hot and hostile environments requiring air conditioning 24/7 in summer and where residents fear to leave their houses except in an air-conditioned vehicle. Please do not allow the appropriation of the Swan Valley and our natural environment to sell a development that is their antithesis and will result in so much destruction by allowing the use of native species names which are highly unlikely to exist within the area prior to development due to prior land uses and certainly will not afterwards. We are condoning their annihilation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillors, any questions for Ms Zack? Councillor Bowman.
Thanks for that, Jan. So, Jan, what would be your recommended name? Have you got
I
one?
knew you'd ask me that. I don't know, but I don't think that using something that is a species or the Swan Valley or any of those things is really appropriate. Sorry, can't do much more than that.
Councillors, any questions? Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, Jen, you mentioned the name Janda. Can you tell us more about that?
It's the Noongar name for this particular hakea.
Is there any reason why you wouldn't suggest that as a preferred
Well,
name?
for the very reason that I just said, that it's appropriating a native name for something that is going to annihilate anything that was ever native about the site.
Okay. Councillors, any further questions for Ms Zack? Thank you very much for coming in tonight for your deputation.
Thank you.
Councillors, we have 14.2.4, which is the proposed Crosslinks Community Hub on page 296. I have an in-person deputation in support of the officer's recommendation from Ms Dawn McLean, Chief Executive Officer of Crosslinks. Thank you, Dawn. If you just want to pop that microphone on, and you have 3 minutes.
I haven't actually done a presentation because I came to the council back in 2024 to present on the Crosslinks Community Hub. Since that time, we've continued to collaborate with a number of not-for-profits across the City of Swan, which is about 57 organisations altogether. We've taken all of that information and we've redesigned the hub so that it is a place where more organisations can use this space. So for those of you that don't know, I'm from Crosslinks. We are a disability organisation that's been in the Midland area for 30 years this year. And we support approximately 220 people in the community and in their own houses. And we employ around 260 employees in the local area as well. What we found across this area is not too unfamiliar with other organisations, is that there's a lack of space to do what we do really well, and there's a lack of opportunity for organisations to get together to collaborate and meet the needs of the people that we serve. Crosslinks, because we are a not-for-profit, we have been fortunate enough to make surpluses year after year and have a really strong balance, which we have then kind of converted into purchasing an asset that we want to make into the community. The asset that we purchased far extends what we want to deliver. It's a huge building and it has so much more potential. So from a not-for-profit perspective, this is what we're advocating for, a community hub where we can all meet and use shared facilities. And I'm also with my board chair, Vicky, just to show support of the recommendations, options 2 and 3.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Councillors, we have some new councillors who might not have seen your presentation, but we can give you some more information about Crosslinks if you're not sure where it is. It's also next to the Play Fun Station in Midland. Have you got any questions for Dawn tonight? Councillor Howlett.
Thank you for your deputation, Dawn. I recall when this came to council maybe last year and when you did your presentation, or 2 years ago, time flies. At that point, you were asking the city to contribute significantly more funds than you are now, which is fantastic to see that you secured more funding. And my question is, at the time that the original proposal was put to us, there was a position that the city would perhaps use some of that space. Has that changed now that the funding model has changed from the city's contribution?
No. The size of the building is huge, and Crosslinks, we do need a new head office space for all our corporate staff, and we think that that's probably going to be about 25% of the building. That leaves 75% of the building for community use, whether that's a combination between long-term leasing arrangements and casual use for things like meeting rooms, training rooms, kitchen facilities, all of that.
Thank you.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. So, Dawn, would it be suitable then for community groups wanting to meet in the evening?
There will be security on the building, so it really does depend how that's going to manage. We do see it opening up longer hours. Crosslinks is a 24-hour organisation, and we provide supports all the way around the clock. So potentially that's what we'd be looking at, but I can't promise everything at this stage.
Councillors, any further questions? No, thank you very much for coming in for your deputation, and yeah, we look forward to seeing that finish the build and community groups using that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have 14.3.1, which is our next deputation. Proposed self-storage premises in Strata Lot 33, number 11/132 Clayton Street, Bellevue, DA 523-25, on page 398. And our in-person deputation, not in support of the officer's recommendation, is Ms Belinda Howlett, the chairperson from Council of Owners. Thank you.
Is that on? I think it might be. Hello, and thank you, Madam Mayor, councillors, staff and members of the gallery. My name is Belinda Howlett and I speak on behalf of the residents of 132 Clayton Street and the wider Bellevue community. Thank you for the opportunity to present our objection. Our community has worked hard to maintain a peaceful and respectful environment, even as we continue to manage the impacts of nearby commercial activity. Residents already enjoy late night operations, heavy equipment movements and steady flow of trucks and training vehicles, allowing further mixed-use development on that undeveloped portion of our strata would intensify these pressures and create new complications for every owner. It is important to emphasise that the vacant land is not a separate parcel. It forms part of the same residential strata as our homes. Residents purchased into a residential strata, not a mixed-use or commercial one, and the proposed development fundamentally alters that expectation. Any commercial activity introduced onto that land directly affects our governance, our insurance obligations, our levies, and our shared liabilities. These are real, ongoing burdens that residents never agreed to carry. There is also a significant fire load and hazardous storage risk. A residential strata is not designed for this level of fire load. The zoning issue is equally critical. The land is zoned residential and the proposed use is commercial in nature. Under normal circumstances, a shift of this kind would require rezoning or a formal amendment to the planning scheme. Approving a commercial scale development within a residential strata without rezoning bypasses the planning framework and sets a precedent that a residential scheme can be partially commercialised. This undermines both the zoning and the purpose of the strata structure. If this application is approved, the consequences for owners are unavoidable. The strata would be forced to absorb the financial and legal risks associated with a commercial operation, including higher insurance premiums, increased liability exposure, and additional maintenance obligations. Approval would also create long-term governance conflict, as residential owners would be required to manage and subsidise a land use that is incompatible with the purpose of their scheme. This is an unreasonable and unfair outcome for families who purchased in good faith. 20 of the 23 public submissions objected to this proposal. This level of opposition reflects genuine concern about residential amenity, zoning integrity, and the long-term direction of our neighbourhood. In closing, we respectfully urge Council to reject DA 523/2025 on the grounds of zoning inconsistency, negative impacts on residential amenity, and a clear community opposition. Our community deserves stability, safety, and clarity in how our homes are managed. We trust Council will uphold the planning scheme and act in the best interests of Bellevue residents. Let's build a better Bellevue, and thank you for your time and consideration.
And thank you very much for your deputation. I'll ask councillors, does anyone have a question for Ms Howlett? Councillor Bowman.
Thanks for that, Belinda. Belinda,
Thank you.
you've probably read the report, and one of the dot points is the balance of Lot 2, which previously existed as common property and was the responsibility of the residential strata units, has since been created as a separate strata lot. So you're saying that's not correct?
It will affect us in regards to insurance and strata levies.
So is it
because
a...
it looks at the full picture. There's 38 units in total there.
Yep, but you said it was still the same lot previously before. It's
Sorry to mislead you.
It is a separate strata lot.
It's, like each unit is.
No further questions? Anyone else have any questions at all for Ms Howlett? No? Thank you very much for your deputation.
Thank you.
And then we'll ask Mr Mark Richards, the chairperson for Bellevue Residents and Ratepayers Association, who is in-person deputation, not in support of the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, councillors, staff and members of the gallery. My name is Mark Richards of the Bellevue Residents and Ratepayers Association, and I'm here to object to the development application 523-2025. Our foremost concern is the precedent this proposal would set. Approving commercial development south of Clayton Street invites further industrial creep into land clearly identified for residential use. We also believe the staff interpretation of the Bellevue East land use study is too narrow because it focused solely on power line constraints rather than the broader residential planning intent that has guided development in this corridor for decades. The area immediately south of this site is now an active residential precinct. The LaBelle Estate subdivision sits directly beside the subject land, and Robinson Grove is selling lots across the road. These estates can form strong demand for housing and show that the market, the development industry and the new home buyers all expect this area to remain residential. Approving commercial activity here would place incompatible land uses side by side and undermine the expectations of families who have invested in good faith. Residents are also deeply concerned about the fire load and hazardous storing risks associated with self-storage facilities. These facilities do not regulate what is stored, and units often contain chemicals, fuels, batteries, powered appliances. Fires in these facilities are extremely difficult to control and can require large exclusion zones and rapid evacuations. Residential streets are not designed for this risk profile. It is also relevant that Western Power has advised the city that it generally does not support development within registered easements. The proposed units sit directly under a 330 kilovolt transmission line. Approving a commercial storage facility in a location the asset owner itself cautions against introduces avoidable risk. In the city, if the city believes a commercial development is appropriate on this land, the correct process is a scheme amendment, which requires assessment by the Western Australian Planning Commission and approval by the Minister for Planning. Approving a commercial use within a residential zone through a development application bypasses that process and undermines the integrity of the planning framework. This development would create a permanent conflict interface between new homes and a commercial activity, locking in amenity issues for decades. It also affects residents in the Shire of Mundaring who have no representation in this chamber. Their local government should be formally consulted before any decision is made. Finally, the community's position is clear. Of the 23 submissions received, 20 objected. This is a strong collective request for council to uphold the planning scheme and protect the residential character of Bellevue. We ask council to reject DA 523-2025 and uphold the planning intent of this precinct. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richards. Councillors, are there any questions tonight? No? We'll get that one easy. Thank you very much for your deputation.
I will just say one thing. What was your question, Aaron? Because that development is on that same strata plan.
So the question I asked Belinda was referring to the report, and it says the balanced lot 2, which previously existed as common property and was the responsibility of the resident strata units, has since been created as a separate strata lot. So just wanting to make sure it was a separate strata lot.
It is a separate strata lot, but it is still under that same strata plan.
So it hasn't removed share management obligations from those units?
So I've seen a contract where the proprietor is asked to maintain that property, but it is still under that same strata plan. So anything that is decided on with regards to a commercial use is going to make that site all of a sudden going to change the whole plan of the strata, because it'll be a mixed use rather than a residential. And insurances are very hard to get for that complex at the present time. There's 38 units, and all of a sudden when you're changing the zoning to commercial and having a residential, you've got a mixed use, insurance premiums are going to go through the roof. They've already gone up.
Councillor Howlett.
Thank you. That was the question I was leading into after that discussion then. So essentially what you're saying is that the onus of higher insurance premiums will fall on the other strata title owners.
The levies will go up, the insurance premiums will go up. It's going to have a catastrophic effect on those residential owners that have bought those units in good faith that that was a residential complex. All of a sudden, it's going to be changed to a mixed use, having commercial and residential on that same strata plan. But these poor people, I think they've endured enough, and you're putting more commercial property right on their doorstep next door.
Have the strata management, on behalf of the owners, put forward a submission?
Well, at this stage, one of the under the Strata Act, we have to get. The applicant will actually have to get approval from the residents at that complex as well. So they'll have to tick that box. So the DA is one application they have to make, and they've also got to make another application or have a special meeting and be voted on by the owners of the complex and have an unanimous.
Okay. Any further questions? Councillors, any further questions?
One more, if you wouldn't mind. If the applicant